Now, I can't speak for women, but a lot of times as men, like it's hard for us to be vulnerable. But it's just because we're not vulnerable for you or towards you doesn't mean that we're not there for you. So a lot of times that we'll just hold those emotions in, and we'll still get up day in day out and do what needs to be done. And a
I-
lot of times, a lot of men, we show our love and appreciation through our actions, not through our words.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to an episode of Life After I Do. I am your host, Nisha G, and I'm here with,
Your husband, Molito.
yes, my husband, Molito.
Yes, your husband. Since
I,
you like going outside without your ring on. Your
I do
husband.
not go outside without my ring on
It was a couple
purpose.
times.
Not on purpose.
We're not getting into that today. What we got today, baby?
Anywho, welcome back to another episode of Life After I Do. Life After I Do is a weekly podcast about all things marriage and relationship after the I do.
In that thing.
Okay. How are you today, babe?
I'm thinking about that thing.
Babe,
Well, I'm good.
how was your week?
It was long week.
Long week,
Yeah.
enjoyable week. What
I mean,
did
it
you
was
do?
fun. Got to see my peoples.
That was really fun. We took a road trip to New Mexico to visit my in-laws. So his sisters and his mom.
I don't like how you say in-laws. They your family.
Okay, to visit my extended family.
Your family.
To visit our family.
Right.
We took a road trip to New Mexico.
Was it really a road trip? Because y'all slept while I drove.
We were on the road and it was a trip. Therefore, a road trip. Doesn't matter who drove. Doesn't matter who slept.
All right, whatever you say.
Okay. So, yes, we took a road trip. It took us, 14 hours?
13 hours there, 13 hours back.
Okay, 13 hours there,
And I drove
13
the
hours
whole
back,
way.
and he drove the...
Both.
Lord have mercy. Let me say that I was a passenger princess, and he drove there, and he drove coming home. Thank you for getting us there safely. Thank you for getting us back home safe and sound.
Okay.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Now, don't act like I didn't offer, because I absolutely offered to drive.
You did that typical woman thing where you offer what you don't really mean it. It's just you gotta put something on the table so you can, make yourself feel better about your decisions.
Oh, wow. Is that the type of energy we're on today?
Speaking facts, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Well, nonetheless, I did my due diligence. I offered to drive. I cannot help that you declined my offer to drive and to assist you in driving. I kind of think you wanted to drive anyway because we had a rental car. We rented a car, and
We rent a car every time we go
I
out
know,
there.
but I think you just liked the features of the car. That's why you wanted to drive. So that's what I'm checking up to. Anyway, it was really fun to see family. And again, happy birthday to my mother-in-law. She had a birthday.
Happy birthday, mama.
Yes, happy birthday to, in the words of our daughter, Granny LaShawn. That's what she calls her grandma, Granny LaShawn.
And this is my dad's mom.
And this is my dad's mom. That's how she introduces my husband when she introduces him to people. She says,
That's how she said to her granny.
This is my my dad's mom, where she says, this is what did she tell you when we were at Starbucks?
She told the lady, this is
My grandma's
son.
Yes, we were at Starbucks one day, and Phoenix was introducing me and Maurice, and she tells this perfect stranger, she's like, oh, and this is my grandmother's son. And I was like, I said, you mean your dad? And the lady just thought it was so funny. And I was like, she always introduces him to some sort of like that. I don't know why. But yeah, so it was a really fun week. We got to hang out, much needed time, good food, great conversation. Shouts out to my brother-in-law, Sean, for that fried catfish, because it was fire.
And them goddamn potatoes the day we walked in with them cabbage.
Man, he had a whole spread waiting for us when we got there, and it was so good. It was so good.
It was a great welcome.
Yeah, it was a great welcome.
And I just want to let my brother Charles know he been slacking.
Goodbye. So yeah, so it was really good. It's always a nice time to visit with family, catch up. It has been a while since we've been there. It's been what,
At
at
least
least
4 years,
3 or
4
4
years,
years.
about 4 years.
Yeah, since we had it out there. So it was much needed
I mean,
time.
in our defense, ain't shit out there. Let,
Goodbye.
let's
Well, our
just
family is there, so
let's keep it a beam.
yeah, we don't go there to
it
explore. We go there to spend time with family. So, and that's exactly what we did, and it was
ain't
great.
much. It ain't much to do.
Um, so yeah, anything new with you?
Uh, no. I
No?
mean, went to the chiropractor, went to physical therapy, got about 3 more sessions. That's about it.
Nice.
You know,
Starting to feel stronger?
no, not at
Oh,
all. But
okay.
okay.
Well, I thought I asked. I,
Anything new with you?
no, nothing really. Nothing really new.
I will say that curry last night was fire.
Oh, I appreciate that. If you don't follow me on Snapchat, you can follow me on Snapchat at Kainisha Gill. I usually snap like what I'm cooking for the family, and last night I made shrimp curry, and needless to say, the family really liked it because between my child and my husband, they finished off a half a pot of
And
curry
she disres
before I even
and she
ate.
disrespected us by eating. She could have made herself a sandwich and let
Wow.
my daughter and I rather finish that curry today. I don't
Yeah.
know why she was tripping.
Goodbye. I'm just happy you guys really liked it. It always brings me some sense of like joy when you guys enjoy what I cook. So, but anywho, let's hop into today's topic. Today we're going to be discussing something that I think is vital to every relationship, and it's also something that is kind of challenging. It can be really challenging in a lot of people's relationships. It can be challenging just as a human being, and that is being vulnerable. Vulnerability. I think vulnerability is one of those things really where you're trying to let everything, all your guards down to kind of show all the raw layers of who you are as a person. And that can be very scary, even when you're in a marriage. Vulnerability does not come easy for anyone, I would imagine, because no one wants to feel exposed. No one wants to feel vulnerable and opening themselves up to not so pleasant reactions or things like that. So I think vulnerability, as important as it is something that is also extremely challenging with most people. So I just wanted to start off just so that we have the basis for what exactly vulnerability is. So the definition of vulnerability is the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. And today we're going to discuss more about the emotional vulnerability and how difficult that can be in relationships, but also how working toward being more emotionally vulnerable with your partner can really propel your relationship and really move the relationship forward. Because I personally feel without it, it's kind of the relationship can be stagnant. Like, how are you moving forward if you're not being vulnerable, if you're not being open, if you're not showing raw emotion? And I feel like there comes a point in every relationship where you're going to have to be vulnerable at some point, right?
I don't
So,
know if you have to be. You choose to be.
no, I think you're gonna have to be
Okay.
because tell me why you wouldn't have to be vulnerable.
I mean,
I'm curious now.
you don't have to be vulnerable. You choose to be vulnerable once you're comfortable enough.
Are you saying like in the sense of yeah, like okay, how you said like when you become comfortable enough?
Yes.
Okay. But you're not saying like it's not necessary for
It's not. It's
the
not.
growth of
It's
your
not a guarantee. It's
relationship.
not a guaranteed thing.
Huh?
It's not a guaranteed thing. It's not a guaranteed thing once you enter into a relationship. I think it's something you work towards in your relationship, and I don't think it's necessarily. It's not a must to grow in your relationship, but it does help you further grow. Like it's not. It's not gonna. Not being vulnerable with one another is not going to prevent you from growing in a marriage or in a relationship, but being vulnerable will just help you grow even more.
So do you
So it
not
doesn't. I don't think it takes away from the growth. It just adds.
okay, that part I can understand. But I think I don't know, I guess for me, like when I think about it, it's like if you are in a marriage with a person you're intended to spend your entire life with, like the intention going into marriage is that this is it. Like you are mine, I am yours. We're going to build life together. Do you not think that in order for us to like overcome challenges, in order for us to work through certain situations and work out things, us being vulnerable with our feelings and our emotions, which also is behind the cause of some of our actions, is not viable to us moving forward and propelling the relationship or working through an uncomfortable situation? Like when you think about your actions and how you behave and interact with your significant other or with your partner, um, there's always some level of there's always some level of ego. There's always some level of, well, where is this coming from? It's if it's defensiveness, if it's like shutting down or shutting off, it's because you're somewhat trying to guard yourself from something. So if you let that guard down, you become vulnerable. It opens up the conversation to you to possibly have more and better communication so that you can work through and work out whatever it is you're experiencing. So for my perspective, I would thinking that way and thinking on the terms of long-term, like, life commitment, that would be that's absolutely vital to moving forward. No? Do you not feel that way?
I don't think it's as vital as you put on it. I mean, yeah, there are going to be situations come on awry that you have to be vulnerable in some capacity, but I don't necessarily think um because a lot of times now I can't speak for women, but a lot of times as men, like it's hard for us to be vulnerable. But it's just because we're not vulnerable for you or towards you doesn't mean that we're not there for you. So a lot of times that we'll just hold those emotions in and we'll still get up day in day out and do what needs to be done. And a
I
lot of times, a lot of men, we show our love and appreciation through our actions, not through our words. So that's why I say being vulnerable in some cases for men is not necessarily the same or viable because as like I said, as men, we show our love and we show our emotions through our acts, not through our words.
Okay, I can understand that. I get that. But what I think, let's see. I think what I'm trying to say is, yes, you can show your love through your actions and you can show it through the things that you do, but eventually like the emotional toll that it's known that emotionally men are not looked at as like needing to be like coddled or anything like that. Like, you are
Don't
intended
that don't mean
to.
we don't like to be coddled.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yes,
Coddle
it
me,
doesn't mean
nigga.
it doesn't mean you don't like to be coddled, right?
Coddle me.
Because eventually that takes an emotional toll
Let
where
me
you
lay in
have
your bosom.
to where you're holding in all your emotion. You're not being vulnerable because you are just, you're just going through, taking care of business, holding down the home fort. Like you're doing all of these things. When do you let loose? When do you get in front of your partner, which is supposed to be your
Well,
hold on, which is supposed to be your safe space, your safe haven, and you just take off all the armor.
okay.
Like you have to be able to take off
Let
the
me
armor.
let me say that to you. A lot of times, we don't feel safe. You
Right.
We don't feel safe in front of our partner
Okay.
because we've had history where it really only takes one time for a man to be vulnerable with you, and then you turn that vulnerability around and weaponize it against him. It's going to take a long time for him to then feel comfortable again to really open up to you. Like I'm not going to open up to you and then you dissect what I say for your benefit, or you try to not validate my feelings. Like
Mhm.
that's another thing that I think we struggle with as men because a lot of times how you feel when you tell that to your partner, it may be the sense where she tries to invalidate your feelings, and she goes, "Well, you say one thing, she says it's another." So that's why I say like a lot of men don't feel like they have a safe space. But like I've told you before, like a lot of times I don't always tell you what I'm carrying, but I've told you before, like once a month, I just cry. I literally just I get to myself, I get alone, and I just I bawl my eyes out. I let it all come out, and that good. It's like it's like my it's my process. I bawl my eyes out. I get a good 10-15 minute cry, and then I wipe my face off, and I go right back to work. Like that's my process.
Mhm.
You know. Now I will say that at the stage we are now in our relationship, I have been more open with you. I felt like it's been a safe place for me to open you because you haven't really been judging my opinions and my thoughts, and I can actually be open and honest with you.
Mhm.
But I know people who don't have the same situation I have, and the situation they're in, I can recognize that, and I can see how they feel that way because I've once felt that way before. Like
Mhm.
before we, went through the whole journey of us trying to be as close as possible and being honest with each other. And like we said on the last pod or a couple pods ago with the whole throwing dagger thing, it was like I'm not gonna be vulnerable with you because I know in the right if the right situation comes up, you're gonna flip this around, it's gonna be a dagger.
Mhm.
So like I know that it's different for both men and women, but for men, that's what I'm saying. What I just said, like that, that's a lot of ways why how men look at it. And it's not always like, oh, I'm a man, I can't show emotion, I can't show feelings. No, like as a man, like I believe as a man, we would want to be soft and gentle with our lady. Like, cause we have to be hard out in the world. So when we come home, we don't want to have to be hard when we're home. I come home, I should be able to be comfortable in myself and in my skin and in my emotions and my feelings. And I shouldn't have to constantly be in a protective mode of protecting myself. Now, because I'm already in protective mode of protecting my family 24/7. But when I walk in my home and I'm at home, I should be able to let my guards down personally.
Yeah.
And that's not the case for everybody.
Which is unfortunate because like me personally, I think that vulnerability is important because it should bring you closer. Um, like how you were saying, it's almost like, you're carrying the weight of the world, you're carrying all that armor every day. And when you come home, when we're having a moment to ourselves, or we're in our bubble, that's what we like to call it, when we're just like alone and it's just
Bubble
us.
time.
Bubble time. We love bubble time. You should be able to take that armor off. You should be able to feel comfortable enough to drop the weight of the world, even if it's just for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just say, like, babe, I'm having it rough. Like, I'm not good here. I'm not good there. Like, I'm just not feeling the best right now, or whatever the emotion is.
Mhm.
It could not even be anything like bad. It could be something just like really good. And you want to share that with your partner. But I would think that you would want to create a space for your partner that is safe and that's inviting in a way that it makes them feel inspired to be vulnerable. I think that's the biggest thing. You want to feel inspired to be vulnerable. Like, you're the person that I want to shed everything for, that I feel safe enough that I'm not going to be judged, and that you're not going to manipulate the situation, and that you're not going to take my words and turn them around. I know, like for me, there's some, like, what do I always say to you? I always say your emotions and your feelings are valid because they are your emotions and they're your feelings, right? Do I not always tell you
Yeah,
that?
but then you
Yeah.
can't say that, but that doesn't mean they're right.
It doesn't mean that they're right. No.
They're yours.
No, they're yours, and you're feeling this, and that is valid because you are a human being, right?
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong, because that's not for me to like decipher if it's right or wrong.
Hmm.
My role is to create a space for you that you can come to me, we can have an intimate moment, you can drop the weight and the armor, and for you to be vulnerable enough to say, today today was hard, or for you to be vulnerable enough to say, I'm not here all, I'm not all here mentally.
Mhm.
I don't have it all together. I know I try to make it seem like I have it all together when I step out into the world, but babe, like I'm drowning. I'm
Mhm.
not, you know what I'm saying? And I want you to feel comfortable enough to be able to come to me and say those things in a safe space without you feeling like your emotions are going to be manipulated, or you feeling like I'm going to bring it up in a later conversation and throw it back at you. Because I feel like that goes both ways for men and women. No one wants their emotions weaponized or manipulated in that way, right?
Right.
So that's why I say it your emotions are valid because they are yours. It doesn't matter if I think you're making sense or not, because chances are I'm gonna be like, I don't see the same thing you see. I don't feel the same way you feel, like, but if I just say that every time you come to me when you're having a vulnerable moment, then it's going to seem like I'm not validating your feelings, right? And it's going to feel like, well, what's the point? Like, this doesn't feel safe, or it doesn't feel like I'm getting what I feel like I need right now is just to feel okay.
Mhm.
Like sometimes it's just a hug. Sometimes I don't need you to respond, and I feel like that goes the same for both men and women. Because I've had situations where I've come to you, right? And I'm trying to be vulnerable. And I will literally have to say to him, I don't need a response. I just need you to listen. And I just need you to hold me. That's it. And even if I tell him I just need you to listen, even if I don't say I just need you to hold me, he automatically goes into like, okay, well, let me just hold her. Like, this isn't a situation for you to feel like my words are an attack on you. This isn't a situation for you to give me advice. It's just, I just need, it's almost like a diary or a journal. And instead of diarying or journaling, you are my journal. And I just need to be vulnerable with you in a way that I'm saying my words on a piece of paper, and the paper's not going to judge me. The paper's not going to use my words against me. You are my paper right now. You know what I'm saying? You're my book of secrets, my book of vulnerability. So I think, in that sense, that's why vulnerability is so important, because it should be bringing you closer. I think it's essential for problem solving, um, in the sense that, when something comes up, like I said before, there is ego involved when you're in a discussion or a disagreement with your partner, with your husband or your wife. There's some level of ego that's always involved, right? If we all could argue in a sense where it was rational, then I'm pretty sure the divorce rate would be a little bit lower than what it is. But that's not the case. So when I talk about being essential to problem solving, I'm more thinking about the actions, right? So somebody who tends to shut down, or somebody who tends to walk away, it's what is it about the situation that is causing the action? Right? Because if we both just sat down, bared it all during the argument and say, I'm getting defensive because I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling inadequate. I'm feeling like I'm failing you. I'm feeling like, you know what I mean? Like if we really got
So,
raw,
but here's the thing. What if you say all that and their response is
you are a failure.
you are inadequate. You
I
are
knew you were
failing
going to
me.
say that.
So what's your response to that?
So
Because
here's,
hold on before you answer. Because a lot of time, us as men is like we're still protective, right?
yeah.
So we want to tell you the truth, but we
Hmm.
can't tell you the whole truth because we still want to protect a portion of your feelings. So we're not going to bear it
Yeah.
all the time. But sometimes we can look at you guys and be like, well, you are inadequate. And in this moment, you are you're failing to meet my expectations of you,
Yeah.
right? And that's me being vulnerable and telling you that in that instant,
Okay.
in that instance. But we know for a fact, 9 times out of 10, the response that's going to come back to us, it's not going to be one that's favorable to us. It's
Mhm.
going to be a defensive response. You know what I'm saying? So you're not. You have. That's why you have to make sure that you know both parties are in the proper headspace to do something like that. Because I know for a fact, if I were to tell you, "Hey, babe, you're not meeting my standards,"
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, you look at me like, "What the hell are you talking about?
Right.
Like, what standards am I not meeting?"
Right.
That's gonna be your first question, and then the question is gonna have attitude behind it. And if I w- and then if I list off A, B, C, and D, and you don't agree with it, then you're gonna come back, and now we're in a full blown argument.
Okay, but
Hold
what
on,
is
hold on, hold on. Now we're in the full blown argument, and now it's gonna lead to you're gonna say your piece, and you're gonna say, "Well, I guess I just have to be a better whatever." I guess and that's what it's gonna lead to.
I I disagree.
Okay, all
I
right.
disagree because first and foremost, I guess let's take it back a minute. What's something I always tell you? I literally just said it to you in the car. That I said you don't do what too well. Do you
I
remember?
don't communicate well.
No, you don't read the room.
Oh, okay.
You don't read the room, okay? So if we're using your example about saying, you're not meeting expectations, that's not something that you just outright randomly say. That's not something you just be like, you passing by in the hallway and be like, you know what, babe, you're not meeting
Well, I
expectations.
mean,
That
I'm
you
not
would
saying
know
that.
exactly. But what I'm saying is that you would know to say, hey, babe, can we have a conversation? Or can we sit down and talk because I got some things I need to say. Then my brain switches to, okay, it's going to be something serious. What is it that we need to talk about? And you being you always say something to the effect of, I don't want you to take it personal, or I don't want you to get defensive, but this is just what I'm feeling right now, or this is just what I've been observing, or this is what I'm telling you I need, right? That's usually how that goes. And then we go into the conversation. So if you came to me and you said, babe, we need to talk. Okay, my brain, let's switch it on. Is this something that's going to be important? He needs to talk about, get off his chest, whatever. I would be lying to say if you came to me and said, "Oh, babe, I feel like you're not meeting my expectations." Of course, like immediately in my head, I'm going to be like, okay, what could I possibly be dropping the ball in? Not to say that I'm not dropping the ball, but now I'm just thinking, okay, my gosh, what could I possibly be dropping the ball in? Let him finish. And then you go into it with a level of like compassion and care. You're not just going off the handles and saying like, "Oh, you're inadequate here. You're not doing this, you're not doing that." You're going to be conscious about having some sort of compassion when expressing the way you're feeling about something, or
That's
when you're expressing a need. Okay, hold on. In the heat of an argument, or in the heat of the moment where temperatures are running high, attitudes are running high, that's probably not the time to say something like that, because your partner's not going to be able to hear it. The point in saying these things is to inflict some type of action and change so that the behavior can change, right?
mhm.
So you need to make sure that the atmosphere, I guess you could say, it is right, because you want to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard, especially if I'm going to be vulnerable with you, and I'm going to be vulnerable to the capacity of which I'm going to express how I'm feeling, right? Because a vulnerability for me is not necessarily telling you what you're not doing. Vulnerability is talking about how I'm feeling, my emotional temperature, right? So for me, I wouldn't even constitute that conversation as necessarily being vulnerable, because the vulnerability has to do with me, the individual. It has to do with me letting down my guards. It has to do with me coming to you in a state that is raw, in a state that is emotionally raw, and feeling like I need some place of solace, some place of comfort, some place of compassion, some place of clarity. And I'm coming to you as my partner, my safe space, my human journal, where I can lay
So
bare my emotions, right? So if you are going to be if you're going to be vulnerable during a state of heightened emotions, let's just say like a disagreement or an argument, and you scream out and you're just like, I'm reacting this way, or I'm shutting down, or I'm walking away, or I'm closed, I'm being closed off or standoffish with you because I'm feeling inadequate. I'm feeling like a failure. I'm feeling like I'm not holding up on my end of the bargain, right?
Mm.
As your partner and as someone who loves you, I would think in that moment, and I would think this, for most people, I'm not going to say all, but I would think that for most people, and especially if it's a man who is saying this to his woman, it automatically humanizes you in my eyes, right? And so then as a woman, it's natural for me to want to take care. It's natural for me to want to like fix things, right? So if I see you having this really raw moment and we're in an argument or a disagreement, temperatures are running high, and you're getting ready to walk out the door, slam the door, shut down, not communicate, don't want to, talk, interact, or whatever. But instead of doing all of those things, you came to me and you were like, listen, I'm doing this because I'm feeling A, B, and C. For me personally, I would look at that as like, you're human. You're my husband who is having a moment. And because you have expressed this is the reason for the action, because the action itself is not the problem. It's what's causing the action that can be the problem. And because you're not being vulnerable, and because
What
you're
if
not.
what if you are the one causing the action? Does that make you the problem?
No, not necessarily. No, it doesn't.
I'm just asking.
Because you still have a right to control how you react.
Right. I
Okay?
agree.
And so even if you're reacting to something that I do and you're choosing to be vulnerable in that moment, because vulnerability has to do with you, not necessarily me, because I can't force you to be vulnerable, right?
Mm,
Right? I can't force that out of you. Like,
you
I'm talking
tried.
about raw emotion. Like, I'm not joking, babe. Like,
I'm not joking either, but you tried.
I can't force you to be
No, you
vulnerable,
can't.
right?
You can't
Okay.
force me to speak my mind.
Okay,
Mhm.
exactly. That has to do with the person.
Right.
That has to do with the individual. So what I'm saying is, instead of showcasing the behaviors of the reaction, where you're going to be storming off, closing down, not wanting to communicate, and just making yourself a recluse, instead of doing that, and you said the reason I'm doing this is because I'm tired of holding up the armor. I'm tired of pretending like I have it under control and I don't have it under control. I've been depressed for the past week. I'm tired of, there's so much on my shoulders. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's being vulnerable, because those are emotions that you are communicating to me that you have never communicated. Or those are emotions that you are communicating to me that you have always been hesitant about communicating out of fear of the way you may be judged, out of fear of manipulation, out of fear of, it being thrown back in your face. But that's the point of the vulnerability.
Mhm.
And that's why I say it's important, because if you were to say something like that during an argument, I'm not going to sit there, for me anyway, I'm not going to sit there and keep going back and forth with you. In immediately, what I would want to do is I would want to run and hug you. I would want to pull you closer, because I see that you're having a human experience. You're a husband, you're a father, you have a lot that's on you. And as your wife, and as me being the person that is supposed to create that safe space for you, or help you create that safe space, because it's on you too to create that safe space. But as your partner, who is supposed to help you create that safe space, who is supposed to be a point of solace for you, I'm not going to keep arguing with you when I see that you're being raw with me. I'm not going to keep arguing with you when I see that you're showing me real emotion and that you are choosing to stand in what we're going through right now and communicate, as opposed to running away and cutting yourself off.
Mhm.
There's no way that I'm going to sit there and be like, okay, well, you should feel like you're failing, because you are. There's no way I'm going to be like, you should feel inadequate because you are inadequate. Like, I'm not going to do that. And I can't fathom to think that there would be somebody in a relationship or in a marriage that they are trying to, that they want, that they are still actively trying to foster life with somebody, would have that type of response with their partner when they are being vulnerable in the moment, in the heat of the moment.
Okay.
Do you understand? Like, does that make sense?
Yes.
You see what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it might have started with how like somebody did something to you, but you have control over how you react to any situation.
Yeah, you
You
always have
you
control of
have
the
control.
response. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when we talk about vulnerability, that's why it's vulnerability cannot be it can't be me making you. It can't be me like constantly telling you or forcing you to be vulnerable. Vulnerability comes when, in my opinion, when you feel like there is enough trust, when you feel like you're not going to be judged, when you feel like you're not going to be manipulated. And I think that's just like a different level in the relationship when both parties can get to a point where I can come to you raw and uncut and feel like I'm going to be cared for and feel like I'm going to have compassion and feel like this is my safe place. That is a different level in the relationship. And that's why I say it's vital for moving your relationship forward. It's vital for moving the relationship forward because if I can't be raw and uncut with you, who am I supposed to be raw and uncut with?
Okay. I hear you.
Fair?
I hear you.
So I know you talked a little bit about why it's hard for men in particular to be vulnerable, especially when it comes to your relationships. But why do you think that is? Like, I know, the judgment part and the trust and everything, but why do you think that is? Like,
It's like I said,
upbringing, what?
it's like I said, it's a multitude of things. It's upbringing. It's the be a man mentality.
Hmm.
You carry the load no matter how heavy the burden is. It's the couple times I have been vulnerable in the past, it's been used against me, so I don't feel safe, and I'm not finna give you the ammo to hurt my feelings. You
Hmm.
know, and so it's the self protecting aspect of it, and I think those are the 2 main too. It's the upbringing, the be a man, and it's also I'm not safe enough, so I'm gonna protect myself from potential hurt. Those are really the only 2 reasons I can personally think of why a man wouldn't be vulnerable.
What about the emotional intelligence, the emotional literacy? Like,
I mean,
actually knowing how to
emotion
express
okay,
yourself
exact okay,
emotionally.
here's the thing. You can be emotional intelligent, and as a man, you can be able to and know how to express yourself and express your needs, but if the person who you're expressing that to is not gonna receive it well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I can tell you up until I'm blue in the face, this is what I need, and this is why I need it, and this is what you're not doing, and this is what I need you to do to get me there. But if you're not receiving the message, and then you turn around and use that to try to say, "Oh well, a real man wouldn't need this," or "A real man," like it's like you flip it on me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So that I'm saying, like, as a man, you can have all the tools. You can have emotional intelligence. You can know the proper way to speak to your woman. But if she's not prepared to receive it or hear it in a non-defensive way, it doesn't change the outcome of that. Hey, this could potentially be turned back on me.
So where do you think that breakdown in communication happens? Like,
I think it breaks down it because again, I think the breakdown is when one of the parties is not selfless. You know what I'm saying? Because
that's a good one.
you have to be like I've said before, you have to be out when it comes to marriage, you have to be out you have to be able to be outside of yourself. And a lot of times people only address issues and confrontation from their angle. They don't see it from the other side, and they
Mhm.
don't see how their actions is impacting the other person.
The different
They
perspectives.
can't get over their own personal traumas. They can't
Mhm.
get over their own personal beliefs to actually hear and receive what their partner is telling them. So if you can't get through that barrier, like I believe why it works so well for us because we both of us are finally in the place where we can be selfless. We can look outside ourselves and see what our partner is asking for
Mhm.
and not get defensive or not internalize what's being said as a negative against our own selves.
Right.
So that why I believe we can be vulnerable with one another. a lot of people sadly do not have that stance. And so it becomes a small battle of I have to protect myself, she has to protect herself. And
Mhm.
so we're going to tell half truths
Mhm.
and partial lies.
Mhm.
Because if I tell you the whole truth, you're going to feel some type of way, and then I'm going to lose the connection entirely. So
Right.
I'm only going to feed you what I believe you can handle. I'm not going to feed you the whole truth.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much what it is. And then I think that goes back to doing the work for yourself because um like you said about being selfless, that has a lot to do with how you process things, which is why you can't hear what your partner is saying without it feeling like a judgment to
Hmm.
you, right? So if you were to tell me like um I don't know, like, babe, I don't like how the house looks or whatever, you know what I mean? Immediately, it's easy for me to be like,
He said, I don't do shit
he
on
said,
that.
I don't do shit around here. And he's trying to say that we live in filth. And he's basically, in another way, saying, what do you do all day? Because you've been
And,
here.
and
So why haven't you cleaned the house? As opposed to me kind of taking me out of it a little bit, even though it's not an easy thing. Let me just start there. It's not an easy thing. And it is something that you have to be intentional about. So, like, when you say you feel like that's something that we've kind of done good at, it's because it's taken trial and error.
Mhm.
It's not because we're just like, yeah, okay, I'm just, going to be so great and perfect about it. No, it has taken trial and error and it's still not something that is 100% perfected. But I think what it has done is it made us more intentional, right? So
Mhm.
in that moment, going back to the story, in that moment, I could feel like you're attacking me. I could
Mhm.
feel like you're saying, you lazy, you don't do nothing, like my house isn't being kept up. Or I can try and take myself out of it a little bit and try to hear what he is saying. After working 12 and 13-hour days, if he comes home, like, yes, he understand that life happens and we have a kid and we have things going on. I have stuff going on. I have errands to run. But it's like if it's like this on a consistent basis and it's like it really doesn't help if he's saying like it doesn't help my mental status to come home to a home that's disorganized or everything is out of place or it just messes with my mental, like it doesn't help me mentally so that I can come in and make that mental switch
Yeah.
to now I'm not out there having to provide for my family, but I'm here as a husband and I'm here as a father and I want to be in this space where I can just focus on that because I
Right.
can't just focus on that when everywhere I turn there's a mess.
Because of what I'm going to do is I'm going to internalize this. Hey, I'm going out here and I'm working all these hours for what? What am I doing it
Yeah.
for? If I'm coming home to uh, a situation where I'm not appreciated.
Or a situation where you feel like you can't decompress.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So that goes back to like when you're talking about couples being selfless. If I take myself out of that equation and don't look at it as an attack, and like I said, that's not an easy thing, but if I don't look at it as an attack, but I'm just hearing it as what my partner is telling me,
Right.
right? Then I can kind of relinquish a little bit of that attacking feeling. And then I can just say, you know what? I understand. I can understand that from your perspective and I can, this is how I'm going to take the action to, try to do better or be better or whatever. But that's the work that you have to do. So doing little things like that and the work that you have to do on yourself also will help you to become more vulnerable
Right.
when you're having a moment
And
that
I'm
you need to
not
be vulnerable with your partner.
and I'm not saying that to be spiteful or to be inconsiderate and
Right.
rude. What I'm
Right.
saying is that this is something I need from you so that I can continue to have the motivation to continue doing the things I've been doing.
Right.
Like I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my efforts or my time and I'm not being appreciated. So if you could at least do this for me, show me that you are honoring me and respecting my sacrifice, then I'm able to go out here and still grind and get
Right.
it.
And I think in the end, what that does is, again, it creates the space for the vulnerability. It inspires you to now know that I can say something to you not coming from a place of malice, not coming from a place of trying to hurt your feelings, not coming from a place of where I'm attacking you, but now I know I have a partner that I can effectively communicate with, and I can communicate my emotions and my feelings and my needs and my wants without them taking it so personal that it turns into an argument, or them taking it so personal that we can't even have an actual conversation about it. You know what I mean? It
Mhm.
inspires you to want to be more open. And that's where I talk about vulnerability being so important and vital to moving a relationship forward. We don't know how long we have to be here on this earth. We don't, right? But if we are choosing to do this life with another person, I want to make sure that our line of communication, I want to make sure that you know, all the things that we want to do and achieve, that we create a foundation and we create a platform that we both feel comfortable coming to.
Mhm.
I don't want to fight my partner, right? I don't want to be in discord with my partner. And the times that come up where we are not on the same page, or where we're just disagreeing, or we're just not in a good place, I still want to know that you're my person and I'm your person. And as long as you're willing to go in, with this fight with me, I'm going to fight with you.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, but it takes two people.
Right.
You have to take the ego out of it. I say this time and time again. You have to take the ego out of it. You have to remove, you know, just your like, not remove your perspective, but be open to seeing it in someone else's
Right.
perspective, someone else's
And a
eyes.
lot of, like, just to, like you said, it's a lot of times it's gonna be the sacrifice between the 2, it's not gonna be an equal sacrifice.
No, it's not.
It's
It's not.
more than not, it's never gonna be an equal
Yep.
sacrifice, and someone's gonna have to give up more or put up more effort, and that's just the way things happen. But
Right.
you have to, like you were saying, you have to understand that it is not us against us. It's us against the problem. It's us
Hmm.
against the situation. It's us trying to better ourselves so that we can then in turn better our relationship and better our marriage so that we can withstand the test of time and go through and come out on the other end triumphant.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. So, how do you get better at being vulnerable?
I just think it comes with time and trust. And I think trust is one of those things where you you lose it, you gain it so slow and you lose it so fast. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh,
So
that's good.
it takes time,
I do.
and you have to, like, I can say, like, for me personally, what I did was I said, okay, I'm gonna give you grace. I'm gonna trust you, right? And so I would divulge little things at a time here and there. Here and there, I would say, babe, I've been feeling this, or hey, babe, I've been thinking about this, or you know what I'm saying? And I would just kind of like see how you would react to those things, and then over time, you told me, okay, well, I can trust her. Okay, so far, so good. I can trust her. She hasn't let me down, or she hasn't internalized this, or tried to weaponize this against me yet. So I can trust her. So then I was able to open up and be more vulnerable to you. So I think the only steps, it's just it's small. It's like I said, you gotta it's about the battles, not the war. It's about taking those small battles and just to seeing the outcome of them, and then getting to a space to where you're now comfortable enough to divulge your full vulnerability.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Um, the trust thing, like, I love how you said it's something that you basically gain over time, but like you can lose it like in an instant.
Overnight, yeah.
Yeah. But trust is such a huge thing. Like, trust, communication, vulnerability. I feel like all of those encompass one big ball of importance. You know what I mean?
Because they're interconnected.
Because they're interconnected.
Right.
Exactly. So when you're trying to become more vulnerable with your partner, like you said, I'll give you a little bit and see how that kind of works with you, and see how you react to that, see how the situation goes. And then as time progresses, my armor kind of can slowly break down when it comes to us
Mhm.
being vulnerable with one another. I also think another another way that you can help, or another way that you can become more vulnerable with your partner, is by not self-projecting, your stuff onto your partner. And what I mean
What do
by
you mean? Yeah, I
that,
was like, what do you mean by that?
yeah, and what I mean by that is almost like how you're emotionally feeling inside. Instead of communicating how you feel, you project that onto your partner and make it their feelings,
Right.
right? And then when that's not how they feel, that's where the disagreement comes in, right? It's because you're self projecting. Instead of saying, this is where I am right now, this is what I need, this is how I'm feeling, I don't know what I'm doing, I need help. Like, instead of communicating exactly it is how you feel,
Mhm.
right? And doing that, it's very uncomfortable. Like, whether you've been, in relationship with somebody for a long time, or even in marriage. Like I say, it is trial and error. But being that vulnerable with somebody, to tell them that you're feeling like a failure, to tell them that you're feeling inadequate, to tell them that you're feeling out of control, like, all of those emotions, that is scary to
Mhm.
tell somebody or to tell your partner, because you do have a fear of being judged. You do have a fear of altering what you think their thought is of you, right? So when I say projecting, don't project all of that onto your partner, right? And try to diminish or minimize how big that actually is. Just try, like, just as hard as it is, push through it and try to tell your partner, like, hey, I'm feeling inadequate, I'm feeling like a failure, I'm feeling like this, I'm feeling like that. And if you are not looking for advice, if you're not looking for the response, you can lead with that as well. I'm not looking for you to respond, I'm telling you this is how I'm feeling. And I don't know what the next step from this is, but I am still willing to work through this. Like, I don't want to feel this way. I don't like us being on this page. I don't like us not having, a good solid foundation in our marriage. I don't like not liking you. You know what I mean? So don't project that onto your partner, but find a way where you can be vulnerable enough to communicate that so that you can move forward. If that means counseling, if that means couples therapy, if that means talking to another trusted couple that you trust, then do that. But do those things, because it's one of the biggest things, like I said in the beginning, that is essential for growth. It's essential for elevating the relationship. It's essential for moving things forward, especially when you're working through, in your marriage. This is where the work comes from. When
Mhm.
people talk, I always say it, right? I've said it like 3 podcasts. When people talk about marriage is hard, or marriage is work, this is literally what we're talking about. This part is the work. The work, it comes in when you're not on the same page. It comes in when you don't like each other. It comes in when your feelings are hurt and you don't know how to get back to steady ground. That's where the work comes from. The work comes from constantly having to communicate even when you don't want to communicate. It comes from having to be vulnerable in situations when it's not comfortable for you to be vulnerable. But
Mhm.
in order to move forward, you have to do uncomfortable things.
Right.
Do
And
they not tell you that all the time?
you have to do uncomfortable things, and you also have to make sure that you are not letting your feelings be facts.
Exactly.
Let the facts
Exactly.
be the facts.
Let the facts be
Don't
the
let your
facts.
feelings be the facts.
Right.
Let the
Right.
facts be the facts.
Because I always say, your perception is your reality. I always say that, because it's like, when you're in a disagreement, there's nothing that I can say that's going to change your perspective, because your perspective is your reality. That's why I say your emotions are valid, because they are yours. So let's get down to the facts. Let's get down to the actions. Let's get down to how you're really feeling so we can discuss that. It's almost like a puzzle. Let's lay all the puzzle pieces out and then we can put the puzzle back together. How, you know what I mean? Like in each place where it's supposed to be. But this is literally the work, and it's not impossible, but it does take two people to want to continue to do the work together. And it is not going to be 50-50 at all.
Never is.
No such thing. No such thing. Tired of hearing that. Debate over. No such thing as 50-50.
There is a such thing as 50-50. I disagree with you.
Okay. Well, when it comes to a relationship.
I agree. I disagree. There is a.
Where? What's 50-50?
Huh?
Tell me what. Are you making a nasty joke?
No, I'm not. That's one way. But I was not talking about that. No, but I know. But
I mean, like
but
perfectly 50-50. No.
What I mean, what I mean is like we're both putting in our prospective efforts to equal.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
I'm not saying it's exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm just I'm talking about across the board, like 50-50. No. No, I don't see it. And if you've figured it out, please let me know.
But I feel like 50-50 is also 50-50 is also something that only happens at optimal output. Like you guys are hitting on all cylinders. Because once, I mean, I've been playing a lot of space games, but once one system is down, you have to then divert power from the other system to repair it. So it's never going to be even across the board.
Okay. Well, my biggest thing that I would like for everyone to take away is if you focus on dealing with whatever it is that you have to deal with, dealing with your own traumas and your own insecurities, it would be so much better.
That's good, babe. See, that's good. See, that's a whole nother episode. Sometimes you got to realize you need to work on yourself.
You have to work on yourself
before you can bring your issues to your partner.
Exactly, exactly, and it will make things so much better.
Right, because a lot of times working on yourself will alleviate some issues that you thought were issues, and you realize no, it wasn't. This really wasn't.
This wasn't a us thing. This was a me thing.
It was a me thing. I was looking at this wrong. Yeah, you are 100%.
I was not. That was not a marriage thing. That was totally a me thing, right? Yeah. Because even in marriage, you still have a responsibility to yourself, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you're gonna go off and like just do everything by yourself, but you have an obligation to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. You have an obligation to your own emotional health, your own mental health, and your own health. You have a responsibility to self.
Because that's when things get rocky. When you rely on your partner to take care of you and your partner, instead of each person taking care of themselves individually, and now we come together and now we be the super person, this super couple. Like when you don't do that and you're counting on your partner to help you take care of yourself, that's when the trouble starts. That's when the resentment starts to set in.
Because you start projecting onto them like, well, I act this way because you don't do A, B, and C. If you were better at this, then I could be better at this.
That's when the I can do bad all by myself mentality.
Right. Then I don't need you if I can do exactly. Yes. And that's it's not the point, guys. It's not the point. So yeah. So vulnerability. Hey, vulnerability.
You're so corny.
I am. I'm really corny. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, this week's episode. Tune in again next week for the next episode every Wednesday.
We appreciate everybody out there liking, subscribing, the comments. We love y'all, man. We appreciate everything.
Yes. And sharing. Love it. Thank you very much. Remember, if there's anything that you guys want to talk about, or if you want a little bit of insight as to a situation that you're dealing with that you need some advice on, you can always email the podcast at lifeafteridopodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to leave comments on any of the clips that you see. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can stream the visual on YouTube. So like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, all that good jazz.
We're also on TikTok, Instagram.
Yes, also on TikTok and Instagram, Life After I Do Podcast.
You can slide into the podcast DM. Do not slide in any personal DMs. We will.
I can't with you. The link is
Because
in
if
the
you listen
bio.
to episode 4, we don't you know where she stands on DMs.
The link is in the bio on Instagram. You can go hit the link and yeah, follow us on all socials. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks. This has been another episode of Life After I Do, and we will see you all next week for a new episode.
Peace. We out, y'all.
Peace.
That's all love.